Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're not doing one of my normal series videos, but I had a question that was asked to me on Reddit about how to handle doing a cooling loop that outputs cold water, and so I decided I would just do a little quick video to show it because it's a lot easier in a video than in a screenshot. So in this setup here we have a tank of water that is 95 degrees that I'm piping in, and we have a cooling loop here. This bridge bridges water onto the loop when there's space. It goes through and it cools it down if this is above 32 degrees. And then it goes out this way. If the water is below 32 degrees, it gets passed into this tank here. And so we have water that's below 32 degrees. Then the loop goes back up. It cools down the steam turbine, comes back through, and goes through this way again. So every time it goes through the loop, it cools down by 14 degrees, and then eventually the water gets cold enough that it goes out, and once it's out of the system, it leaves a space in the loop, and hot water can be pumped onto the loop to repeat the process again. And you can feed in 95 degree water. It will do it in small increments, make it into 32 degree water, and repeat the process as long as you have an input coming in. So you can see right now we have this water coming out. It's a little below 32 degrees. It's filling up the tank here. And we have new hot water feeding in through this bridge. So the important steps are you want this liquid bridge to be before this sensor so that we're putting hot water in and then it's immediately being detected to see what temperature it is. And if it's above 32 degrees, it is cooled down. This sensor determines whether or not to send the cold water out, and if it's still too hot, it loops around again. And because you're using a bridge to go on, it won't add any more hot water until some cold water leaves the loop and the hot water is allowed to have space to go on. So right here we have some space because water's going out. It automatically refills it from the tank here. So the only downside to this is that you can only do as much as is in the loop at one time. So if you want to do larger batches of cold water coming out, just make the loop longer so that you have more space to fill up the loop as it goes through on each pass. But if you're just trying to do a slow process where you have hot water and it turns to cold water, this setup will work for you all the time. So this is what it looks like. This is the piping. This is the automation, real simple. And that'll get everything all going for you. So hope this little quick tutorial helps somebody out. And I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to switch over to my main playthrough and show you a little more complex version of this that I use in my saltwater boiler. So this is a much larger version. It has a lot more going on, but it still uses the same basic principle of what I was doing. In this particular version, I'm dumping salt water into the steam chamber, which is being boiled and turned into steam, and then the steam is being brought out and added into these tanks here, and these tanks become the 95 degree water that is loaded onto our cooling loop. I'm only trying to cool it down to 70 degrees, and so typically it comes through, I'm running it through 2 aqua tuners, and so in one pass it goes below my mark. And so it goes off here using the liquid shutoff to go into my water storage down here. But if it wasn't cold enough, it would loop back up and go through for a second pass. And then up here, water from the steam turbines is dumped back into the loop to be cooled down again. And so the output from here, because it's 95 degrees and I want it to be 70 degrees, is cooled down one more time. Through this, since I'm using 2, it goes down 28 degrees instead of 14, and then that way I have water going out here that's under 70 degrees, which is perfect for my electrolyzer. And I also have some redundancies in here to make it so that I never run out of water in the loop, and then I have some the added salt water so that this one, when it has steam coming from this system, it will process the steam. When it doesn't, it has salt water coming in to fill up this room with pressure so that we constantly are creating water from the system. So we're processing the salt water from a saltwater vent. We're also processing the steam from a cool steam vent, and it's providing us with tons and tons of 70-degree water for electrolyzers. So this is just a way you can use the simple setup I showed in a much more complicated way. Anyway, I hope you learned something from it, and if you have any questions, just ask, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.